When a store manager accused a black mother of shoplifting and demanded she empty her purse in front of everyone, she didn't resist, didn't argue, she just quietly complied. And what the security cameras revealed next shocked the entire store. At 38, Diane had built her life around providing opportunities for her children. Maya's acceptance into the advanced mathematics track was exactly the kind of achievement Diane had worked to make possible. But buying the required technology meant navigating spaces where her presence often triggered suspicion. The Saturday afternoon crowd at Westfield Shopping Center was in full swing. Families navigated the busy corridors with strollers and shopping bags, teenagers clustered around store entrances, and the food court buzzed with conversation. Inside Premium Electronics, one of the mall's anchor stores, customers browsed the latest smartphones, tablets, and gaming equipment under the watchful eyes of sales associates and security cameras. Among the shoppers was Diane Washington, a 38-year-old black mother of two, accompanied by her 12-year-old daughter Maya. Diane wore a simple blue dress and carried a modest handbag, while Maya stayed close to her mother's side, occasionally pointing at items that caught her interest. They had come to the mall specifically to buy Maya a new tablet for her upcoming middle school year, something Diane had been saving for over the past 6 months. What should have been a routine shopping trip was about to become a public humiliation that would expose the ugly reality of retail racial profiling and transform both women's understanding of how they were perceived by the world around them. Premium Electronics was managed by Richard Kellner, a 42-year-old white man who had been running retail operations for 8 years. Kellner believed he could identify potential shoplifters within minutes of their entering his store, though his pattern recognition was actually racial profiling that consistently targeted black customers. From the moment Diane and Maya entered the store, Kellner's biased alarm system activated. Diane's careful examination of price tags suggested to him that she couldn't afford the merchandise. Maya's enthusiasm looked like casing the joint rather than excitement about educational technology. For 30 minutes, Diane and Maya browsed the tablet section comparing features and price. Diane asked questions about warranty options, educational software, and payment plans, but Kellner interpreted every aspect of her behavior through the lens of suspicion. "Can I help you find something specific?" asked Jessica Martinez, a 23-year-old Latina sales associate who had been working at Premium Electronics for 2 years. Jessica approached Diane with genuine helpfulness and enthusiasm, recognizing a serious customer when she saw one. "We're looking for a tablet for my daughter's schoolwork," Diane replied. "Something reliable but not too expensive. She's starting 7th grade and needs it for her advanced mathematics program." Maya nodded enthusiastically, her eyes bright with excitement about the academic challenges ahead. "I'm going to take algebra this year, and my teacher said we'll use tablets for graphing complex equations and statistical analysis. Some of the kids in my class already have tablets, but I want to make sure I get one that's really good for math application." Jessica smiled, impressed by Maya's articulate explanation of her academic needs. "That's wonderful. Advanced math in 7th grade is really impressive. Let me show you some tablets that are perfect for educational applications, especially mathematics and science programs." Jessica began demonstrating several models, explaining the differences in processing power, screen resolution, battery life, and educational software compatibility. Diane listened carefully, asked thoughtful questions about durability and warranty coverage, and gradually narrowed down their choices based on both Maya's academic needs and her own budget constraints. But Kellner was watching from across the store, and what he saw only confirmed his prejudiced assumptions. In his biased interpretation, Diane's thorough examination of merchandise wasn't careful consumer research, it was reconnaissance for theft. Her questions about prices weren't budget-conscious shopping, they were attempts to identify the most valuable items to steal. Maya's knowledge about educational requirements wasn't academic preparation, it was sophisticated coaching for a potential scam. As Diane and Maya continued their evaluation process, Kellner positioned himself closer to their location, pretending to organize merchandise displays while maintaining surveillance. He noticed that Diane occasionally picked up tablets she wasn't actively considering, that she moved her handbag from one shoulder to another while examining different models, and that Maya sometimes wandered a few feet away to look at accessories and cases. In Kellner's racially biased worldview, these completely normal shopping behaviors became evidence of criminal intent. Diane's handling of merchandise became concealment preparation. Her natural adjustment of her handbag became creating distraction opportunity. Maya's independence and curiosity became acting as a lookout while her mother prepared to steal. What made Kellner's surveillance particularly insidious was his certainty that he was being professional and objective. He genuinely believed his suspicions were based on behavior rather than racial bias, even though identical actions by white customers would never have triggered his attention. His 8 years of discriminatory profiling had been reinforced by confirmation bias that interpreted normal behaviors as suspicious when performed by black customers. After 45 minutes of careful consideration and comparison shopping, Diane finally made her decision. She selected a mid-range tablet that offered excellent educational features, solid build quality, and a 3-year warranty at a price she could afford after months of saving. The device would serve Maya throughout middle school and into high school, making it a wise long-term investment in her daughter's education. "This one is perfect," Diane told Jessica. "It has everything Maya needs for her math program, and the warranty gives me confidence it will last through her school years." Maya practically glowed with excitement. "Mom, this is going to make algebra so much easier. And look, it even has graphing calculator apps built in." As they approached the checkout counter, Jessica began processing their purchase, explaining the warranty terms and recommended accessories. The transaction was proceeding normally, with Diane preparing to pay for her carefully selected purchase when Kellner decided to make his move. What happened next would transform a routine retail transaction into a public humiliation that would be recorded, shared, and viewed by millions of people across social media platforms. That's when Kellner made his move. "Excuse me, ma'am," Kellner said, approaching Diane at the checkout counter. His voice carried across the store area, loud enough for other customers to hear and turn their heads. "I need to speak with you about some merchandise discrepancies." Diane looked up, confused. "I'm sorry. What kind of discrepancies?" "We've been monitoring suspicious activity in the store," Kellner announced, making no effort to keep his voice down. "And I'm going to need you to empty your purse and allow us to check your belongings." The accusation hit Diane like a physical blow. She stood at the checkout counter, her daughter beside her, being publicly accused of theft in front of dozens of witnesses. Other customers had stopped their shopping to watch the confrontation unfold. "Sir, I haven't stolen anything," Diane said quietly, trying to maintain her dignity despite the growing humiliation. "I'm here to purchase this tablet for my daughter." "That may be," Kellner replied, his voice growing more confident as he sensed an audience forming around them. "But we have reasons to believe you may have concealed other merchandise. I'm going to need you to cooperate with a bag search, or I'll have to call security." Maya moved closer to her mother, sensing the hostility in Kellner's tone and the stares of other customers. "Mom, what's happening?" she whispered. "It's okay, sweetheart," Diane said, though her voice betrayed her own confusion and growing anger. "This gentleman thinks there's been some kind of mistake." Jessica, the sales associate, looked uncomfortable with the situation. "Mr. Kellner, Mrs. Washington has been a model customer. She's been asking thoughtful questions and is ready to make a legitimate purchase." "Jessica, I'll handle this," Kellner cut her off sharply. "Ma'am, I'm not asking for your cooperation. I'm requiring it. Either you submit to a bag search voluntarily, or I'll call mall security and have you detained while we sort this out." The ultimatum was delivered with the casual cruelty of someone who had never faced such treatment himself. Diane realized she had no good options: refuse and be arrested in front of her daughter, or submit to public humiliation and hope the nightmare would end quickly. "Fine," Diane said, her voice barely above a whisper, "but I want you to know that this is wrong, and you're traumatizing my daughter for no reason." "Ma'am, if you have nothing to hide, this will be over quickly," Kellner replied with false reasonableness. Diane opened her handbag and began removing its contents onto the checkout counter. Wallet, keys, phone, tissues, hand sanitizer, Maya's emergency inhaler, a shopping list, and various other personal items that any mother might carry. Nothing that belonged to premium electronics. Nothing that hadn't been purchased elsewhere. But Kellner wasn't satisfied. I'm also going to need you to turn out your pockets and allow me to check your daughter's backpack. The demand to search Maya was the final straw that transformed Diane's humiliation into something approaching genuine outrage. You will not search my 12-year-old daughter. She hasn't done anything wrong, and neither have I. Ma'am, I'm trying to be reasonable here, Kellner said, his voice rising to ensure other customers could hear his justification. But if you're not willing to cooperate fully, I'll have to assume you're hiding something. By now, the confrontation had drawn significant attention throughout the store. Other customers had stopped shopping to watch the drama unfold. Several people had pulled out their phones to record the interaction. The atmosphere in premium electronics had shifted from commercial routine to something charged with tension and moral outrage. Maya began to cry, overwhelmed by the public scrutiny and her mother's obvious distress. "Mom, I want to go home," she said through her tears. "We'll go home soon, baby," Diane said, putting her arm around her daughter while simultaneously trying to process the surreal injustice of their situation. But Jessica, the sales associate, had been watching the entire confrontation with growing discomfort and moral clarity. She knew Diane and Maya had done nothing wrong, and she couldn't stand by while they were being publicly humiliated based on nothing but racial profiling. "Miss Kellner," Jessica said, her voice gaining strength and moral authority, "I think we should review the security footage before this goes any further. I've been helping Mrs. Washington for the past 30 minutes, and she hasn't displayed any suspicious behavior." "Jessica, I don't need your input on security matters," Kellner snapped. "This is my decision to make." "Actually," came a voice from behind the growing crowd of onlookers, "I think reviewing the security footage is an excellent idea." Everyone turned to see David Chen, the store's assistant manager, approaching the checkout area. Chen had been in the back office reviewing inventory reports when he heard the commotion, and what he saw when he emerged troubled him deeply. "Miss Kellner," Chen continued, "I've been watching this situation develop, and I think we need to step back and handle this more professionally. Let's review what our security cameras actually show before we continue with these accusations." Kellner's confidence began to waver slightly. He had been so focused on his assumptions about Diane's behavior that he hadn't actually reviewed any video footage. His accusations were based entirely on his biased interpretation of normal shopping activities. "David, I don't think that's necessary," Kellner said, though his voice had lost some of its earlier authority. The suspicious behavior was obvious to anyone paying attention. "Then the cameras should confirm that," Chen replied calmly. "Let's go to the security office and review the footage together. Mrs. Washington, would you be willing to accompany us so we can clear this up quickly?" Diane nodded, relieved that someone was finally suggesting a rational approach to the situation. She and Maya followed Chen and Kellner to the store's security office, trailed by Jessica and several customers, who wanted to see how the confrontation would be resolved. The security office was small and cramped, with multiple monitors showing feeds from cameras throughout the store. Chen pulled up the footage from the past hour, focusing on the areas where Diane and Maya had been shopping. What the cameras revealed was devastating to Kellner's accusations and worldview. The footage showed Diane and Maya entering the store and immediately approaching the tablet section. It showed Diane examining merchandise carefully but respectfully, reading information cards and price tags. It showed Maya staying close to her mother and occasionally pointing at items that interested her. It showed Jessica approaching them with helpful customer service and Diane asking thoughtful questions about products and features. Most importantly, it showed absolutely no suspicious behavior, no attempts at concealment, and no evidence of theft or criminal intent. "Miss Kellner," Chen said after reviewing 20 minutes of footage, "can you point out the specific moments where you observed suspicious behavior?" Kellner stared at the monitors, his face growing red as he realized how normal and innocent Diane and Maya's shopping appeared when viewed objectively. His biased assumptions had transformed routine customer behavior into imaginary criminal activity. "Well, she touched merchandise she wasn't buying," Kellner said weakly. "That's called shopping," Chen replied. "What else?" "She moved her handbag around," Kellner continued, grasping for justification. People adjust their bags constantly while shopping, Chen said. Is there anything else? Kellner had nothing. The security footage completely contradicted his accusations and revealed the ugly truth about his motivations. He had targeted Diane and Maya, not because of their behavior, but because of his racial prejudices and assumptions about who belonged in his store. Chen turned to Diane, his expression filled with genuine remorse. Mrs. Washington, I want to apologize on behalf of Premium Electronics for the treatment you and your daughter have received today. This was completely inappropriate and unacceptable. Thank you, Diane said quietly, though the damage to her dignity and her daughter's sense of security couldn't be easily repaired. Furthermore, Chen continued, as an apology for this incident, I'd like to offer you the tablet you selected at a significant discount, along with a case and extended warranty at no charge. But the gesture, while well-intentioned, couldn't erase the trauma of being publicly accused of theft based on nothing but racial profiling. Maya had stopped crying, but she remained close to her mother's side, her trust in the fairness of the adult world permanently damaged by what she had witnessed. Mr. Kellner, Chen said, turning to the store manager, we need to discuss this incident privately. Your behavior today was unprofessional and potentially discriminatory. This will need to be reported to corporate headquarters. Kellner realized that his career was in serious jeopardy. The security footage provided clear evidence that his accusations were baseless, and the incident had been witnessed by multiple customers who could testify to his discriminatory behavior. Within hours, videos of the confrontation would be uploaded to social media platforms, where they would be viewed millions of times and spark nationwide conversations about racial profiling in retail environments. Within days, corporate investigators would review the incident and Kellner's employment history, discovering a pattern of discriminatory treatment toward black customers that had been previously overlooked or ignored. Within a week, Kellner would be terminated from his position and find himself unemployable in retail management, his reputation permanently damaged by his public display of racial bias. But the confrontation was far from over, and what happened next would reveal the true extent of Kellner's discriminatory mindset. David Chen had been reviewing inventory reports when he heard raised voices from the sales floor. As assistant manager, what he discovered when he investigated troubled him deeply. A black mother and daughter being publicly humiliated based on what appeared to be racial profiling. Mr. Kellner, Chen said, his voice carrying authority, I think we need to step back and handle this more professionally. Let's review what our security cameras actually show before we continue with these accusations. Kellner's confidence began to waver as he realized his accusations were about to be subjected to objective scrutiny. David, I don't think that's necessary. The suspicious behavior was obvious. Then the cameras should clearly confirm that, Chen replied. Miss Washington, would you be willing to accompany us to our security office so we can review the footage and resolve this situation? The security office was equipped with multiple monitors showing feeds from cameras throughout the store. Chen pulled up the footage from the past hour, focusing on the tablet section where Diane and Maya had spent their time. What the security cameras revealed was devastating to Kellner's accusation. The footage showed Diane and Maya entering the store and walking directly to the tablet display with purposeful movement. It showed Diane reading product information carefully, comparing specifications, and asking detailed questions about educational software. The cameras captured Maya's enthusiasm about starting advanced coursework and her respectful behavior throughout their visit. Most importantly, the footage showed absolutely no suspicious behavior, no attempts at concealment, and no evidence whatsoever of criminal intent. Miss Kellner, Chen said after reviewing the footage, can you point out the specific moments where you observed behavior that justified these accusations? Kellner stared at the monitors, his face growing red as he confronted how normal and innocent Diane and Maya's shopping had appeared when viewed without racial prejudice. While she was touching merchandise extensively, Kellner said weakly. She was comparison shopping for tablets, Chen replied. That requires examining the products. Can you identify any actual suspicious behavior? Kellner had nothing. The security footage completely contradicted his accusations and revealed the ugly truth. He had targeted Diane and Maya not because of anything they had done, but because his racial prejudices had made their presence seem inherently suspicious. Chen turned to Diane with genuine regret. "Mrs. Washington, I want to offer you and your daughter a sincere apology on behalf of Premium Electronics for the completely inappropriate treatment you received today." Within hours, videos of the confrontation would be uploaded to social media, where they would accumulate millions of views. Within days, corporate investigators would discover a pattern of discriminatory treatment in Kellner's history. Within a week, Kellner would be terminated with a record that would make him unemployable in retail management. But for Diane and Maya, the most important outcome wasn't Kellner's career destruction or the corporate policies that would be implemented to prevent future discrimination. It was the validation that comes from having objective evidence confirm what they had always known, that they deserved to be treated with dignity and respect regardless of others' prejudiced assumptions about their character or intention. The security cameras had revealed the shocking truth that a black mother and daughter could be accused of theft for the simple act of carefully shopping for educational technology in a store where someone's racial biases made them unwelcome. Sometimes the most powerful response to discrimination isn't confrontation or argument, it's the objective truth that emerges when prejudice is forced to confront facts and evidence. The transformation in Maya's understanding of the world would be permanent, but it would also be empowering. She had witnessed injustice, but she had also seen adults like Chen and Jessica stand up against discrimination when they recognized it. She learned that while prejudice exists, there are people willing to challenge it, and systems that can provide accountability when bias leads to harmful action. Months later, Diane would be invited to speak at corporate diversity training sessions, sharing her experience to help retail employees understand how unconscious bias could harm customers and damage business relationships. Her story would inspire policy changes across multiple retail chains and contribute to improved training programs for customer service representatives. Maya would excel in her advanced mathematics program, using the tablet they had purchased that day to master complex equations and statistical analysis. But more importantly, she would carry with her the knowledge that dignity and respect were not negotiable, and that standing up for what's right sometimes required courage, but was always worth the effort. If this story moved you, remember that everyone deserves to be treated with dignity and respect while shopping, regardless of their race or appearance. Share this reminder that assumptions based on prejudice have real consequences, and that we all have a responsibility to speak up when we witness injustice in our community.